I take a shower, I flip on the radio I have in the bathroom, AM radio, and it's Anna Maria Schmidt's voice. I have never heard on AM radio. It was some Christian station playing some old conference tape of hers, The only time I ever heard her voice. And of course, when I heard her voice, it went through me, and it's like, okay, you got to do it. So I get out of the shower, and I go upstairs, and my mother's in the kitchen, and before she can turn around, I just kind of like hug her from the back and say, Mom, I love you. Anyway, and she responds warmly. She says, I appreciate that. I know it's always been very hard for me to show affection. So then we take a walk. And on this walk, out of the blue, I hadn't mentioned religion all day, she just turns to me and she says, sometimes I think what bothers me most about your conversion is deep down inside, I know you're right. So anyway, I'm still praying for the grace of conversion for my parents. I'll tell another story. These things are cute. I was home visiting my parents. I slipped a miraculous medal under my mother's mattress. And I thought I got away with it, but like 2 months later, she calls me and she's got this like awkward, tight voice. And she says, the cleaning lady was turning over the mattress and she found this like medal of Mary under the mattress. You put it there, didn't you? And I said, yes, Mom, I did. It's okay. I'll take it back the next time I come home, or you can mail it to me. She said, no, that's okay. I'll keep it. So anyway, there's where there's life, there's hope. So I think I'll stop there and just take, I have 5 minutes or whatever, and take a couple of questions if people have any questions or.
Can you explain why Moses had all the strict laws of what not to eat and all that?
That's a very good question. Everyone heard it because she's got a microphone. Thank you.
No, and then why it was changed in the New Testament when they were able to change the law.
Moses had all the strict laws, first of all, because God dictated those strict laws to him, right? You have to believe that as a Catholic, right? The Old Testament is divine revelation. It's inerrant also. God said to Moses, tell the Jews they have to do this, they have to do this, they have to do this. So the question is, why did God make the Jews do all those things? And at that point, all I have is my own theories, because I'm going to hate to face her when I die and be accused of putting words in the mouth of God, right? So I could be entirely wrong, but I have my own theory about why God might have given the Jews those laws. And I have two theories, or rather, there are two reasons that I can see. One is religious Judaism is like religious life in the Catholic Church. In other words, in Catholicism, you can be a lay person and have a relatively normal life with, you have very serious moral obligations, but your hour-to-hour life is relatively unconstricted, except for not doing things which are immoral. Whereas if you're a religious, for instance, the religious where I go to Mass every morning, they wear habits. They wear their old habit, which shields their eyes like this, so they can never see other than straight ahead, which means every waking moment they're mortifying themselves, right? That must be horrible never to be able to see out of the corner of your eye and have to go like this to talk to somebody. And every waking minute, they're being mortified, right? They're wearing warm, uncomfortable habits, especially in the summer. They're living in silence. They're strictly cloistered. So it's like every moment is explicitly consecrated to God and being mortified. And the Jewish laws have some of that characteristic. Okay, the clothes you put on are dictated. Saying a prayer before you put anything in your mouth. Saying a prayer before you, not saying a prayer, but having your head covered before you walk 4 steps. Everything you do is consecrated by prayer. One of my favorite Jewish prayers is there's a prayer you have to say when you go to the bathroom, which says, "Blessed are you, Lord God, King and Creator of the universe, who created us without one orifice too many or without one orifice too few." That's beautiful, right? You're lifting everything up to God. So the way I see it is, first of all, that the ordinary Jew, because they were called to be a priestly people, were being forced into something a little bit like consecrated religious life by the strictness of the laws. And the other aspect is that the Jews had to be kept separate from everybody else in the world for 2,000 years, right? Because that's what I talked about yesterday. They were separated out to be given the revelation of true religion and to prepare for the coming of the Messiah and to purify themselves for the coming of the Messiah. They couldn't intermarry, they couldn't intermingle, they couldn't assimilate into the tribes around them, which was almost impossible to avoid because everyone was fighting with each other and conquering everybody else and taking wives from everybody else. The Jewish laws prevented that, right? Because you couldn't even touch a non-Jew. You couldn't eat with a non-Jew. It built tremendous walls between the Jews and the people around them. So those are two reasons that seem to me logical behind why God might have given the Jews those laws.
Mr. Schoeman, could you please explain, because I've heard this also before, you were starting to mention about Pope Pius XII implication of the collaboration, maybe a mild collaboration
Sure.
with Hitler at one point in time, and you were saying that there's a book that is refuting that. We'd like to know that.
Okay, sure. Let's see. As I mentioned yesterday, Pius XII, there's this calumny that has been spread, I think, by the devil precisely to block the conversion of the Jews, that Pius XII didn't do enough to help the Jews. A former cabinet minister of Israel named Pinchas Lepidus wrote a book in the 60s called Three Popes and the Jews, in which he gave evidence of Pius XII's personal intervention being responsible for saving the lives of, by his estimate, 780,000 Jews. It's well documented that Pius XII gave orders to all of the convents and monasteries in, I believe in Italy, but certainly in Rome, to open their doors to hide the Jews, which required a violation of the cloister. So it took a papal demand or papal permission because religious orders could not, imagine a convent of religious sisters strictly cloistered hiding Jewish families in the basement, right, or in the attic or whatever. They needed permission before they could do that. He did, and thousands of Jews were hidden in convents, under his orders. Their photographs, there's a woman, a nun, who I'm very fond of. I had one of the great privileges of what I do is the people I get to meet. I'm very disappointed I didn't get to meet Char Vance, by the way. You'll have to invite me back next year so I can. The sister Margherita Marchione has written about a half a dozen books documenting this, but she has pictures in one of the books of the quarters of the Swiss Guards, which normally has, I think they have about 300 Swiss Guards. They had something like, 3,000 Jews hiding in the quarters of the Swiss Guards, so that the staircase was like a dormitory. The pictures of the staircase with the Jews sleeping on each step, on the way up, because it was crammed with Jews which were being hidden by the Vatican. There are these very cute stories, of Jews being given cassocks to wear and, being disguised as priests and religious and jumping over back walls and stuff. Now, Pius XII gave veiled, I don't want to say threats, but gave veiled speeches condemning Nazism. But he did not get on the radio and, formally condemn the Nazis and excommunicate any Catholic who cooperated with the Nazis. When he was asked about this at the time, one of the things he said was, martyrdom must be freely chosen by the individual involved. It's not up to him to make martyrs of all of the Catholics in Germany, right? Because that's what he would have been doing. He would have been forcing a Catholic into martyrdom. He also, the Dutch bishops, I had prayer cards. There's prayer cards with Edith Stein on the front of them. Many people may know this story, but Edith Stein was in a convent in Holland. She was obviously Catholic, but she was from Jewish parentage. And the Dutch bishops came out with a homily to be read in all of the Catholic churches in Holland, condemning the Nazis' racial persecution of the Jews. And in immediate retribution, the SS chief for Holland issued an order that all of the Catholics of Jewish blood be immediately deported to the concentration camps and exterminated. And that's what brought about Edith Stein's death. It was under that order that a few days later she was forcibly taken from the convent and